Hello, English C1000. So this is about unity. Unity at the essay level. This is part one of a three-part series. So essay unity is really important because staying on topic makes the reader have more confidence in what you're saying. If you deviate from the topic, it makes it seem like you don't have an answer, or you don't have enough evidence, or perhaps, you just are not really taking the time to put the argument together in a really constructive way. And so because of that, they lose confidence in the argument. We don't want that to happen because the thoughts that you're developing are important and wonderful and very complex and trying to solve problems we don't have answers for. But you also have to support this with academic journal articles and all kinds of complex stuff. So it's complex, 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 and trying to make all these details fit together to do one thing, which is prove your thesis. So I'm going to talk about different ways to check your argument and make sure that it is staying on topic. So this is part one of three. So let's look into it. We'll start by talking about what I mean when I say essay unity. So in order for an essay to be unified, it must do a couple things. First, it must have a clear thesis statement that makes one argument about one topic. Next, it must have clear topic sentences as at the top of the supporting body paragraphs, please. And each one of the topic sentences should provide one specific reason why the thesis is true. So it should be directly related. And then on top of that, the evidence that you have in those body paragraphs, it must match the topic that was presented in the topic sentence. And that's a lot of matching. That's a lot of unifying, as you might say. So basically, from the first word to the last, you want to make sure that the essay, every sentence, is working hard to prove the argument that you have stated in your thesis. So how do you do it? The first step is classification. And you can do this before you actually write the first full draft of the essay. I actually encourage it. This is a lot of plates spinning at once, and knowing where stuff goes, it can make it a lot easier to actually write and explain it without having to do, like 700 different revisions. You will be doing revision, but we want to be efficient as well. So classification can help. And it's something that you do all the time. So when you classify an item, you organize it into a larger group. To select the right group for that item, you examine its features. If the item has sufficient or significant features that are similar to the other items in a group, you can organize that item into that group. Once something is in the right group, it has been classified as a member of that group. And then once you have completed classifying all the items into their specific groups, you can identify the group by name. So you'll be able to do that with this very important principle called the basic classification. This is where it starts to hit what we're doing in the essay. So the name of the group is based on what the members have in common, right? And what they have in common, the one thing that makes them the most similar, that makes them be in one group together, is called the basic classification. If this is sounding abstract and it's not quite like falling together at this point as a concept that's clear, that's normal. It'll make more sense when you see how often you do this and essentially how simple the concept is. But, again, be forgiving of yourself because you're dealing with mostly complex specifics right now. So the brain has to click in that direction. It's back to simplifying. So here we go. How would you classify these items? What groups would you put them into? You could have them as one group, right? Like let's say you're running a grocery store. This would be produce, okay? If, however, you wanted to put it into two groups, let's say you're making a dish that, you want to make sure it tastes wonderful. So you want to put, let's say, the celery, the potatoes, and the butter lettuce together in that meal. Those would be the vegetables that you would be putting together. And then the cherries and the bananas and the tomato would be fruits. Granted, like tomatoes are a bit of a wild card. I use them like I use vegetables, but nonetheless, they are classified, I think, scientifically or at least culinarily as fruits. And I'm going to go with what people more expert than me have to say about it. So let's go to words. So we're not going to do pictures anymore. We're going to do words, right? We're kind of getting a warm up for doing this with something as complex as what you guys are writing about. So let's look at just, words and phrases. So how would you classify these items? A pen, a pencil, a sheet of paper, a notebook, a feather quill and ink, a diary, and a computer. Like if you're going to put them all in one group, like what would be the thing that they have in common or the basic classification? I would say, writing tools, right? And if you wanted to put it into two groups, like what would you use as the basic classification for each group? Like what belongs in what group? For me, I would say a pen, a pencil, and a feather quill and ink. Those count as things you write with. And then the sheet of paper, the notebook, the diary, and the computer, which is a little debatable, but the computer, they all count as places where you put writing, right? So you might come up with a better basic classification than I for these things, but nonetheless, it's just putting the stuff into groups based on what they have in common, and then naming them based on what the members of the group have in common. So let's try this one more time. Okay, and this is also on the worksheet. You can follow along. So, a heart attack, physical therapy, a low-salt diet plan, a brain aneurysm, tendinitis, a doctor, a nurse, and heart surgery. So altogether, what things do these items have in common? As a whole group, they're all related to the medical field, right? But if you wanted to organize it into smaller groups, more specific groups, you could, let's say, organize it into 3. How would you organize it? Because, again, for me, I would have the heart attack, physical therapy, or the heart attack, pardon me, the brain aneurysm and tendinitis be all in one group, because those are all ailments, things you wish don't happen to you or anyone you know. Physical therapy, a low-salt diet plan, and let's see, maybe heart surgery. Those actually count as treatments, like medical treatments for ailments. And then, we have the doctor and the nurse, and those are the people who administer the treatments for the ailments. So that's the kind of stuff that you'll be doing when you are working with your essay, just with bigger stuff. So let's do bigger stuff. How would you classify these sentences? I will read them and feel free to classify them on the worksheet as we go along. So, after 1 year of membership in our monthly rewards program, customers will get 1 ice cream cone for free. When customers sign up for monthly rewards, they get 25 ice cream cones for $25. Monthly rewards customers pay a $10 penalty each month they do not eat any ice cream cones at our store. And then monthly rewards customers who do not order 25 ice cream cones still have to pay the $25 monthly fee. First-time customers will get 50% off of their first single scoop cone. And then finally, customers who do not sign up for our monthly rewards program will have a penalty dead fly placed in the bottom of their cone. So the group, this is all about this rewards program for this ice cream shop. But there's a difference between the different policies that they have. So if you had to classify the policies based on, what impact, I guess, they have on the customer, what kind of policies do you have? So the free ice cream cone in the first one, the $25 for 25 ice cream cones, and then we have customers who get 50% off. Those are all like actual rewards, right? Those are benefits. Whereas, having the $10 penalty for not eating ice cream cones at their store, and then still having to pay $25 even if you don't eat all those ice cream cones, and then the penalty dead fly, like, seriously, it might not be part of the rewards program, but like that's a straight up penalty. So these are the penalties that this ice cream store is going to give to you if you don't do certain things based on their policy. So in this one, we have actual rewards, and then we have punishments. These sentences, that's how we classify them. And this is the kind of stuff you're going to be doing sentence level and like article level and, essay level throughout this practice of classification. So we're just going to do a couple more warm-ups, and then we're going to move on to outlines in the next video. So if you were going to classify these items in a unified way, let's say this is how somebody classified them, like how would you fix it? So the base of classification for the first one is fruits. And we have watermelon, peaches, and cigarettes. Yeah, one of these things is not like the other, so which one is it? Where I do know some people that would like to classify cigarettes as a fruit. It definitely is not. Let's look at the vegetables one. So we have an acorn squash, a birthday cake, and a broadsword. So like a broadsword, for those of you who are unfamiliar, it's like, one of the great big, medieval weapons. But yeah, that's definitely not a vegetable. A birthday cake, I wish was a vegetable, but it's not. But an acorn squash is. So you have one. So there would be some restructuring that would need to be done. But you notice when it's simplified like this, how it's easier to tell which things match and which things don't. So this is something that we're going to want to do with your essay. Take a lot of the content out and simplify it. So that we'll be able to see where it matches and where it doesn't. So let's go to this next one. So these are also pre-classified items. Let me know what you think. So we have one, it says that these are all oil spill damages. That's the basic classification. So we have 200 gallons of toxic sludge in a freshwater lake, 354 dead ducks suffocated in crude oil, 30,000 local homes without clean water from water stores polluted with crude residue. So are all of these oil spill damages? Yeah, they're awful. Now let's look at the oil spill cleanup and how this was classified. Shoreline water flushing oil removal, clean up crews with protective gear manually removing crude with shovels, and that totally happens. Burning oil on a lake surface, or oil pollution killed all the aquatic marine life in Lake Tawana, which is definitely not like the others. The oil pollution and Port Lake Tawana. But it's interesting, if this one was debatable for you, the burning oil on a lake surface, that is actually qualifiably an oil spill cleanup method. At least the last time I looked it up. So yeah, but it's easier when it's presented like this. So this will be the last one that we look at before we start talking about outlines. This is kind of similar to what you might have if you had your thesis and potential topic sentences all written down. So we have, let's say the thesis is peer review is beneficial to students in college writing classes. And I will tell you, in composition studies, there has been a lot of ink spilled on this topic, and people still don't agree about the utility of it. So here's some reasons why, someone might have for this particular thesis statement. So we look at this thesis statement. What is the one thing that we're looking for? I mean, yes, we're looking for peer review. And yes, we're looking for college writing classes. That has to be in there. But the argument, right? The argument is the thing that we really want this stuff to have in common. So what are they arguing about peer review and college writing classes and the students in them? That it's beneficial, right? So the basic classification for this would be benefits, right? So let's see what they got. Peer review creates social pressure on students, which can inhibit learning. Does that qualify? No, it totally doesn't. That's not a benefit, unless you're trying to run a really messed up class. Peer review facilitates student development of a concept of audience. Total benefit, right? Peer review reinforces the skills students need to evaluate the content of their own work. Absolutely. Students hate peer review. Why? So why bother? That actually was a quote from a student from when I taught in Minnesota. But it's not a benefit. And then peer review assists students with identifying the important features of an essay. Total benefit. And then peer review causes students to become hypercritical of their writing, leading them to question their ability to write a successful essay. Yeah, that's a negative impact. We don't want that happening. And then finally, peer review encourages students to edit and proofread their essays. Hell yeah, that's totally a great thing. So this is the concept of unity and base of classification that we're going to then apply to essay outlines and all of the parts that go into an outline, so that you can write an outline that will organize everything in a unified way and help you stay on track while you were working through the incredibly complex thoughts, evidence, and just issues that you are trying to write about for this essay.